Laura, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Thank you, Ann.
Sure.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Doing well, ma'am. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Christina, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Nick, good afternoon. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Commissioner Garcia, how are you, sir? Good afternoon. Good to see you. Can you hear us okay, Commissioner?
Yes,
Perfect. Good to see you, sir.
likewise.
Chairman, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Jaime.
Mr. Estrada, can you hear us okay, sir? Good afternoon. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Do we have a quorum, so?
I'm checking that now, Chairman.
Okay,
We just had one voting member that's not going to be available that reached out was Mr. Joe Khalifa, sir.
okay,
So we'll need 6 for quorum today.
okay. So
We have 3. Saul is in for Commissioner Fuentes.
I'm here, Jaime.
Oh, there you are, Commissioner. Sorry, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. Daniel Lucio, is Daniel Lucio on by any chance? Hudson DeOy. Joey Trevino. Are you on by any chance, Mr. Trevino?
I mean, I don't think they do.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to say it. I'll be right there.
Jonathan, if you can please mute your.
Oh,
Thank you, sir. That's all right. Thank you. Mr. Caso or Miss Haley. Commissioner Garcia is on. Mr. Raul Peña or anyone else in for Mr.
This
Raul
guy
Peña,
became
Commissioner
head of the
Peña.
Drainage district over there. He's the assistant manager. If he became manager, I would go work for him. He's
Hey,
great.
Skyler, if you can mute your phone, please.
Cavazos.
We're too shy of a quorum as we sit right now, Chairman.
okay.
I think we got Mr. Caso logging on right now. I think I just saw his. Mr. Caso, are you on?
Yes, sir, Mr. Salazar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you. Good afternoon. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Good to see you too.
We're one shy of quorum as we stand, Chairman.
Okay. Let me quickly call
Thank you.
one
Sir.
member, okay?
Thank you.
Form the group to hold. Jaime,
Yes, sir, Chairman.
Joey Trevino is trying to log on, but
Okay.
he's having a little difficulty. We're gonna resend him the link from my office. If you want to resend him the link also, that'd be fine. You know, maybe one of them will work.
Will do, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and picked up.
and stuff like that.
No problem. You want it on email or you want it on text?
Email, please.
Okay, email. What's your email, Joey?
Joey@rgvagc.org.
I just sent it. Okay, we just sent it over, Joey, and I'm sure that Jaime sent it also.
Yeah, okay, I got it all here.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is.
Yes, sir.
Well, Jaime, I mean, yeah, Jaime,
Just mute here, sir.
I cannot hear. I don't have any, do you have a number I can dial into? I
Yeah,
can
we're-
see it all.
No, all you gotta do is hit join. All you gotta do is hit join meeting, okay?
Yeah.
I have to hang up on him. You might need to call him. Huh?
No, it's really not working. Weird.
Call him on this one, and just, don't be here, cause it reverbs in here. And talk to him, see if you can help him get on. Yeah, he's still trying to log on, but it's giving him a little. Do we have to have, his face on there or not?
Yes, sir. And for voting members,
For voting members, right?
yes, sir.
Are you sure you want to say that?
Commissioner Garcia, I'll just leave you on my phone here if you can hear me okay.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. It'll give me a minute to try to figure this thing out.
10-4.
It's that, it's a. Willis
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Got it, Ernie?
There's something with the audio.
Your audio's working?
I'm sorry, with the speaker side of it. I've got it on audio. I've got it silenced on my phone. That way I can
hear you just fine.
I can hear you, Jaime.
Okay.
Try raising your volume on your speaker.
We know Mr. Trevino received I sent
Yeah,
him.
I got it now, guys. I'm on have to get on my phone instead.
Okay, so Chairman, whenever you're ready, sir. Then we got Mr. Trevino on the line.
So we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank everybody for being here this afternoon. Jaime, roll call and establish quorum, please.
Yes, sir. Chairman David Garza,
Here.
Commissioner David Fuentes,
Here.
Mr. Daniel Lucio.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Lucio. Good afternoon, sir. Mr. Hudson Dewey. Mr. Hudson Dewey. Mr. Joey Trevino.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. Mr. Rene Estrada.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Joe Khalifa called in, was not going to be able to make it. Mr. Jose Caso.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Caso. And Ms. Laura Haley. Okay. Commissioner Ernesto Garcia.
Present.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Raul Peña. Okay, Mr. Willie Cupid, non-voting members, Mr. Willie Cupid. Mr. Adrian Pettis. Mr. David Ramirez. I did receive an email from Mr. Ramirez was going to be out of town for today's meeting. Mr. Manny Cruz. Mr. Manny Cruz.
I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Ms. Michelle Garcia. Mr. Nick Gallegos. Mr. Ramon Macias.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Macias. Ms. Shonda Mace.
Sky Levere here on behalf of Shonda Mace.
Thank you, Skylar. Ms. Kara Smith.
Present.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And Ms. Jamie McCool. Chairman, we have a quorum and are ready to start our meeting, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Jaime.
Yes, sir.
Our first item is, do we have any written public comments that you've received for this meeting, Jaime?
Chairman, I did receive some comments from Cameron County, sir. Don't know if we
Okay.
have Mr. Sanchez on the line that would like to read them out. If not, I could read them into the minutes, sir.
Augusto, are you on the line? Yes, I think he is.
Okay, great.
I see him. I see him on there. Augusto,
Can you hear me?
now we can. Yes.
Okay, good.
Augusto, if you would like to read your public comments at this time, it would be appropriate so we can include them in the minutes.
Sure. Okay, I'll try to be super brief. So, Cameron County would like to include a project in the regional flood plan amendment that would assess the vulnerability of the shoreline and coastal elements of the county to compound flooding and storm surge. Terrestrial onset flowing that is typical of much of the lower Rio Grande is generally characterized by rapid rise but low energy inundation events, often accompanied by damage-inducing high winds. While this type of flooding has occurred frequently in the past few years, storms originating in the Gulf and impacting on shore have been less frequent, but have the potential to create significantly more damage due to high energy dissipation, storm surge compounding with terrestrial floodwaters, and impeded by coastal infrastructure. A flood mitigation strategy project is recommended to survey the county's coastline to update current knowledge to assess current knowledge of assets and value, including residences, agricultural areas, commercial and industrial activities that would be vulnerable to high energy coastal flooding. Determine the probability and distribution of intensities of such events, including identifying current methodologies for forecasting their impacts. Develop a schedule of design storms that capture the variability of their impact. Assess the range of potential economic impacts resulting from these design storms, and develop a schedule of potential mitigation solutions ranging from early warning, asset hardening, and/or protection, relocation, and other potential applicable innovative technologies. This project would involve the county regarding the necessity and form of next steps, including evaluation of high-value mitigation solutions for construction or implementation. This project could potentially result in the application of funding to follow on flood mitigation evaluations and/or projects. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jaime, any other public comment that was received by you written?
Not at this time, sir.
Am I able to add a comment during the meeting, or is that not allowed? This is Roberto Fernandez with the City of Harlingen.
We will receive public comment during the meeting on item number 11.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so please just hold on to your horses and we'll get to you, okay? Any other written public comments submitted to you, Jaime?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. We will go on to agenda item number 4, which is discussion and action as appropriate. Consider approval of minutes from the previous meeting of March 19. And those were included on our packet.
So
I
move.
will move by Mr. Caso,
Second. David
second,
Fuentes.
Commissioner Fuentes. Any discussion or comments, corrections or deletions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The minutes are approved. We will go on to item number 5. Discussion and update from the Texas Water Development Board, and we have Nicholas Collins with us that will give us an update on activities.
Good afternoon, everybody. I have quite a few things to go through since we haven't met since March. So to start everything off, TWDB hosted a technical conference call on June 25th. The topics covered included fifth and state floodplain cycles, FMX cost estimates, emergency need definition, and FME program. The recording slides are on our Cycle 2 webpage. TWDB sent out also a data updates on July 14th on emergency need description and early warning system in infrastructure. We added a new field for emergency need that allows a description. Flood early warning systems has been added as a valid entry to the infrastructure type field. TWDB also sent out an update on the future conditions cursory floodplain input date on July 11th. The change factors / inputs used to develop the data are now available via the Flood Data Hub at the Cursory Floodplain Phase 2 downloads folder. TWDB sent an update to Exhibit C on June 30th for Task 5B, where work performed under Task 5B is not contingent upon a written notice to proceed. Its clarifying language was added for the requirement for FMEs in the list to be related to small / rural communities. There was also completed and accepted 5th Category 1 reports are now available for download on our website as well. The board also approved the prioritization list for FMEs and FMPs for the 24-25 fifth cycle. Formal invitations to apply were sent out to 17 FMEs and 2 FMPs. The next FIUP will be tentative to be released for public comment winter 25 through 26. And then the last one is I and two other TWDB representatives hosted a financial workshop in both Cameron and Wilsey County at the request of Representative Lopez. While this was a closed workshop, I would be happy to share the presentation with anybody that would like to have it. This is not specifically a flooding specific workshop, but it was covering FIF and the RFPG. And if the RFPG would like to host one themselves or have TWD representatives come down and do another workshop for y'all, we'd be happy to do it.
Any questions, comments, or discussion in regards to Nicholas' presentation?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the written comments submitted by Cameron County, where they were requesting, I guess, did I understand it correctly, to amend the FMP plan for this study? Is that going to be possible, or is that going to be not available until the next amendment cycle to the statewide plan?
That would be a Nicholas question.
Yeah, so if it was adopted into the amended plan itself, then it should be included in the updated and amended state flood plan, which will make it available for fifth funding. I think there is some consideration at the moment for not doing a second amendment, or I guess a second amendment to the RFP for cycle 1 from the 2023 plan. I think that is in still consideration in talks, so it's not solidified. But if it was included in the amendment, then it will be on the fifth prioritization list.
No, I guess my question wasn't that. My question was if there's going to be what you mentioned, like another, I guess, because of all the very terrible situation that's happening. If there's a forecast that they're going to open up the I guess, the plan, I guess, for other organizations to submit new projects, or if that's not really in the talks right now.
That I do not know. It hasn't been an official talk, at least at my level. It might be a talk at the management level, but currently at the planner level, we have not been instructed or told of any of those endeavors.
Okay. And did I understand from the presentation correctly that some of the organizations that were ranked with the FMPs, they were already invited to apply?
Yes, 2 FMPs were ranked that were invited to apply. Now with the 5th cycle, if the funds or the projects that were given out, the 17 FMEs or the 2 FMPs that were submitted or that were sent out for invitation, if they do not either accept it and apply for it, or the project has started, they will move on to the next one down the line of the list. As well as if the funds themselves are not completely exhausted, they will start another round of selections. So if you do not see Region 15 on there, or I believe there is 1 or 2 Region 15 projects on there, if you don't see that, don't get discouraged. There is going to be another round, and I believe there's probably some talks at the state ledge for this special section where they'll probably be allocating more funds to fifth. That is also hypothetical. I just wanted to put that out there.
So there, I guess there's talk about potentially funding this ranking cycle for the, is it the IUP? Is that what it's called?
FIUP, yes.
So the FIUP essentially to put more funding into this particular ranking that's already been issued?
Correct. And I believe that there is funds already in there, but until they're exhausted, the FIUP will keep going, or the 5th cycle will keep going.
Okay, and then you mentioned 2 and then I think 18. So was it 2 FMPs or 18 FMPs?
So it's 17 FMEs and 2 FMPs. So there's 10 FMEs that were not federally funded. 7 of those, the other 7 were federally matched.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions by anyone in regards to Nicholas's presentation and discussion? And we'll probably see some more opportunities coming our way, Mr. Caso, after this legislative session, because I know that there's a big push to include other necessary community systems to have in place to try to make sure that this type of the catastrophe doesn't happen again, so we need to just keep our eyes open.
I'm gonna have a meeting at 3:30.
And at the same time, we need to make sure that we advocate with those folks during the session for things that we need in our communities.
Yes, sir, Chairman.
Okay.
Agreed.
And for those of you that are up there constantly, I know you and Commissioner Fuentes and a few others, thank you for advocating for all of us up there. Okay. Any other comments on item number 5? Thank you so much, Nicholas, for the update. And if there's any appetite or interest in you doing a presentation for the group, we will be in touch with you. Okay.
Sounds good.
Item number 6 is approval and certification of administrative expenses incurred by the planning group sponsor for the development of the regional flood plans. Jaime?
Chairman, I was not able to make it on time this go around, but I will have something ready. So at this time, we don't have anything to certify. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go on to item number 7, discussion and consideration to renew all voting members currently serving 2-year terms. And that list was included in our packet for your review. Hopefully we can count on everyone on that list to want to continue serving and helping us with this endeavor. And I think everybody is on there that, well, Daniel Lucio, Mr. Lucio, you're included, Commissioner Fuentes, Mr. Khalifa, Mr. Trevino, and the only one that's on the list is not, that we can't renew, I guess, because I don't have an affirmation from him. So I'm going to consider that a non-renew, but we can renew the first 4 that I just mentioned. And if there's any opposition, this is your chance.
Chairman, and just to advise the committee that the renewal will be for a 5-year term, sir.
I hope you would. Okay. Is there a second?
David will second that.
Thank you, Commissioner. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Congratulations. And Jaime, just put on your front burner the replacement of the individual that has not been approved, okay?
Understood. Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll go ahead then and go to item number 8, which is discussion and approval of applications submitted by nominees of Region 15 voting members. Everyone should have gotten the applications and had a chance to review them. And at this time, I'll entertain motions, discussion, or whatever this group wants to do with the nominations.
I'd like to submit a motion if I could, Chairman. Is it possible to do a multiple name motion?
Yes, sir. I mean, the only thing that could happen is that either it's approved or it dies. So.
Then we can discuss, right? Okay. So, with that said, I'd like to nominate Annabelle Salinas, Troy Allen, and Ben Escobar. I think they've all expressed the desire to be here and to assist us, like everybody else who makes time out of their busy days. If somebody is committed to doing it, I really want to welcome that. Sometimes, without having to say names, some people don't show up or have to be called a couple of times. I've been guilty of that once in a while, but we're all trying to do our best. And these three, I would put forward for everybody to approve.
Okay.
Chairman,
just for the record,
okay, go ahead, sir.
For the record, Annabelle Salinas would be a flood control district.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Troy Allen is agriculture.
That is correct.
And Ben Escobar is a water district.
Yes, sir. And we also have one more water district position available, sir, or vacancy for voting member available.
Okay. Does Mr. Estrada wish to include another person in his motion?
I've got Mr.
We can do a yeah. Please.
So you're open to amending it with one more name if somebody wishes to nominate somebody?
So moved.
I want to nominate Josh Reese. He's the board president of Cameron County Drainage District number 6 to serve in that position.
Unfortunately, Mr. Gasso, Mr. Reese did not submit a nomination. What we have available for nomination for water district currently is Mr. Michael Kent, who's from Donna Irrigation out of Hidalgo County. We have another Ivan Santoyo out of Webb County who submitted for water district. And then we also have Ms. Olga Ramos out of Maverick County, Commissioner Precinct 3, who also submitted for water district. So those are the three available that we have that submitted nomination forms for water district interest category.
I would, if that's the case, then I would ask for Michael Kent. I believe the first round he applied as well. I think he's shown that desire to serve that Mr. Estrada was referring to.
That's correct, Commissioner.
I second the nominations.
Okay. Any other discussion in regards to the nominations? You know, I think it's really good. We don't have anybody outside of the valley. That's my only concern that I have on this, but we will work with whoever we have that's willing to serve, you know. So any other comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor of those that were presented, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I may please notify those individuals that they will be at the next meeting called on to serve and help us with our mission. Okay?
Yes, sir, Chairman. Will do.
Okay. And those are all 5-year terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
Okay. We'll go ahead and go on to item number 9, which is discussion and update on the 2028 Regional Flood Plan, chapters 1 through 4. I think do we have Ann on the line?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, you've got the floor and you need to share the documents. This is when you need to put them on.
Yep, I just sent a request to get access to share.
We'll get that going for you, Ms. Ann.
Thank you. All right. See if it shares the right one. All right. Can you see my slide, the title slide?
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, good afternoon, Chairman, members of the Regional Floodplain Committee, and other community stakeholders who've joined us here today. I think everybody here knows me. We might have a couple new members, but my name is Ann Whitco. I am the Deputy Project Manager for the Regional Flood Planning effort in Region 15. I'm with HEF Associates, and I am in our Brownsville office. My team and I are here today to provide an update on the work that's been completed on chapters 1 through 4 up to this point. In interest of everyone's time, we've prepared a relatively concise overview of the elements that have been completed so far, but at any time, if you'd like me to expand on anything or you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and ask away. So the presentation corresponds to agenda items 9, and then we have another presentation for item 10. The item 9 covers an update of the work completed, like I mentioned, all leading up to the preparation of a technical memorandum that needs to be submitted to Texas Water Development Board by January 7th of 2026. So that's coming up right around the corner. I've noted that there are 2 items on this presentation where we will be requesting approval from the Regional Flood Planning Group to move forward. Those are going to be on tasks 2B and 4A, and I will make that request after I present on that topic. Item number 10 is to fulfill Texas Water Development Board requirements to have 2 pre-planning meetings to discuss the regional flood planning process and solicit public comment. And so we'll be doing that at the end. So chapter 1 of the regional flood plan includes a detailed description of the planning area. One of our sub-consultants, Black and Beach, is assisting our team with this chapter, and they'll be joining us at our next meeting to provide a more detailed update on the information that they've collected to date. However, right now we're going to spend a few minutes presenting some highlights of the information that we've been able to collect so far from the survey tool that was deployed this past February, and the infrastructure assessment toolkit that was developed by Texas Water Development Board. And then the final element that we're going to give you an update on in this section is the work that we've done to update our critical facilities infrastructure data set. So on February 17th of this year, we posted a link to our survey and data collection tool on the Regional Flood Planning Group website. Additionally, our team sent emails and follow-ups via virtual meetings, in-person meetings, phone calls, and then more targeted personal emails to individuals representing over 106 entities across the region. At this time, or at the time that the survey, or at the time the presentation was created, in order to be posted to the website, we had received 18 responses to date. And then since it was posted, we've received a few more. We're now up to 21 responses, actually 22. We just got another one completed this morning. So, so yes, we're making a final push, working with our sub-consultants to get to help solicit feedback through that survey tool. And right now we plan on closing that tool down next Friday. The level of participation we're seeing is pretty typical or possibly slightly improved from what we saw last year, and typical of what a lot of the other regional flood planning groups.
I will ask, excuse me for interrupting, Ann, but I'll ask those of you that have your mics unmuted, could you please mute your mics so that we can proceed without interruption?
Thank you, Commissioner. So the data that was input utilizing our online mapping tool or the web map is what we're showing on the right side of the screen here. And then it's summarized on the table to the left. Overall, users identified 13 flood-prone areas that we will consider in our existing flood hazard data. We have 15 locations of roadway flooding and one area in need of study to develop flood hazard data where there's currently data gaps. Users have also updated 15 critical facilities. And like I said, we're going to take all of these inputs into consideration to update our data sets and update the flood risk information we have for existing conditions. So these next two slides are just really to give a snapshot of some of the responses we're receiving on a subset of the questions. I'm not going to go through everything on every single question posed, but one of our questions asked community stakeholders what source of data they rely on to best understand flood risk in their community. And you can see from the bar graph on the left, responding communities are relying on a combination of local or regional studies, base level engineering studies, or effective FEMA mapping products. Another question asks users which, if any, of the following minimum standards should be recommended by the regional flood planning group for all jurisdictions within the region. And this is a topic we're going to talk about more in some future meetings. Many responding entities indicated a preference to recommend detention standards, standards for bridge, culvert, and roadway design, land use standards, and compensatory flood storage requirements. A smaller number of responders indicated that higher development standards requiring additional freeboard above the floodplain would also be something they'd be interested in recommending to the region. Responses also highlighted what type of information and projects Region 15 communities would like to be considered for inclusion in the plan. A large percentage of the responses received indicated a need for flood awareness and outreach education programming, flood insurance information, storm drainage systems, dams, reservoirs, and detention and/or retention basins, in addition to other items as displayed in the graph on the left. And I think this is pretty typical, a lot of the responses we were receiving during the first cycle as well. When asked about what types of flood response methods are currently being used by their jurisdiction, respondents indicated that they use multiple types of tools, including social media sites, rain and stream gauges, public-facing websites, flood warning signs, forecasting tools, barricades, and they have been coordinating with TxDOT to use message boards. Those are some of the more common responses. This is obviously a big topic right now across the state with a lot of the flooding that we've had recently in Central Texas. So another item that I want to bring to everybody's attention, kind of moving on past the survey data that's been collected, there is a new infrastructure assessment toolkit that's been provided by the Texas Water Development Board. It's available on their website, and the link that's shown on the top of the screen, it can be accessed from that link, and then we've circled there in orange like what you need to select to actually download the toolkit. It's a great tool for those communities that don't already have a GIS-based inventory or some other system of tracking stormwater assets across their community. And this toolkit also supports our efforts in trying to provide updated information on location, age, and function of existing community stormwater infrastructure across the planning area. So as we've been reaching out, we've been working with our sub-consultants, and as we're reaching out to communities, we're trying to collect this type of inventory data and make folks aware that this tool exists to support them. This slide is just has a couple screenshots of what that toolkit looks like and some of the information that's required. The peach colored cells are required inputs and include a asset category and whether or not that asset has some sort of study or report that assesses the function of the asset. The toolkit is pretty easy to use. It has step-by-step instructions on how to do it. But I just wanted to make people aware of this toolkit to help communities track their assets. The third item on the task 1 update that I wanted to provide is where we've spent a lot of effort over the last couple of months. Our team spent a lot of time performing a detailed review of the data provided during the first planning cycle on critical facilities. And during their review, it was observed that there were a large number of critical facilities that were either missing, misidentified, or incomplete. And so as a result of our effort, we've added 3,689 additional critical facilities to our Region 15 data set. And this is important as it not only improves our understanding of how those critical facilities across the region are impacted by flood risk, but it also impacts the scoring of our projects across the region when proposed FMXs will address flood risk at these critical facility sites. The map and the picture on the screen, oops, sorry about that. The map and the picture on the screen show a example of one of the inaccuracies that we've observed as we went through this process, and there's many examples like this. At this location, that point indicates a police department that was identified in the previous database. And then when we started using some of the tools available to us through imagery on Google Street View and products like that, it was observed that that's not a police station, it's a house. So this is one example where we actually removed something that was previously considered a critical facility. But there are a number of other instances like this where there were buildings that were not included, that were now added to our list. And then we had several categories of critical facilities that were not previously categorized at all. I'm going to show this on the next slide.
And on that previous slide, Ann, that picture you show used to be the city hall for the city of Combs. They've since built a new facility.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you, sir. So this slide just shows a summary comparison of all the critical facilities that were added to the database during this planning cycle relative to that of the previous planning cycle, and we have them listed by facility type. So you see a couple of these numbers decreased from cycle 1 to 2, specifically for fire stations, police facilities, shelter classes. But there were significant numbers of data points that were added for nursing homes, power generation facilities, schools, and water treatment plants. Additionally, like I mentioned, we were able to add additional data classes that were not previously included during cycle 1, but were considered in a lot of the other regions. And these include airports, child care centers, Department of Defense military facilities, historical sites, other medical facilities beyond hospitals, prisons, and wastewater treatment facilities. So all of these have now been incorporated into our new data set, which was part of our scope for task 1. And so it's much more complete, accurate, and comprehensive now. So we're going to move on to chapter 2 update or task 2 update. I'm going to hand the presentation over to Elmer Hinojosa. Elmer's one of our project engineers at HAF in our McAllen office and the lead H&H modeler on my team. So he's going to present briefly on tasks 2A and 2B related to the existing and future conditions across Region 15.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir. We can hear you just
Okay.
fine.
I had some technical difficulties in the morning. Okay, so I'm gonna present the existing conditions and future condition flood risks. I guess for existing conditions, we're currently working on reviewing the flood quilt provided by Texas Water Development Board. We're also evaluating other potential sources to use for the flood quilt. Some of these sources can be the GLO study currently going on for the Norman Drain that covers Hidalgo and Willacy counties. Also, there is a new study, coastal study for the Cameron County area. There's also a new BLE study for Central Laguna Madre watershed. And we're also considering any other local studies like the one in Valverde that was mentioned here on the comments. We're planning to have a more complete update on our next meeting on August for the RFPG. And we're also planning to have a public meeting early September. Go to the next one. For future conditions, TWDB prepared for different future floodplain scenarios using the year 2060. Each of these scenarios have three factors, which is the climate change, future subsidence, and land use change. So like here, scenario 1 includes the minimal future climate forcing with future subsidence and land use change. The second one goes above that and uses moderate future climate forcing with future subsidence and land use. And the most extreme one, which is scenario 3, uses significant future climate forcing with subsidence and land use change. And then we have scenario 4, which is assumes moderate future climate forcing and only and no future subsidence or land use. And then here, spoiler, we have a map showing the floodplain, the future floodplain for the 100-year event using scenario 3. We have at TWDB are recommending to use scenario 3. Go to the next slide, please. So on this one, we account for significant climate change. It includes the future subsidence and land use. So it's the most conservative approach and assumes the worst case scenarios. So after making the reviews for all 4 scenarios, we decided to go with scenario 3. And here on this picture, we show the McAllen-Edinburgh area with the 10, 100, and 500-year storm floodplains. So you can see how the floodplains are changing.
Thanks, Elmer. So this is one of the items that I mentioned earlier we were going to be asking for approval to proceed with. Like Elmer mentioned, that we were given these 4 scenarios with a recommendation from Texas Water Development Board to use scenario 3 for our future flood conditions. And we've reviewed that and we agree with that recommendation. And so we are requesting your consideration to move forward with that alternative.
Any comments in regards to their request for agreeing to move on with the recommendation of scenario 3? Anyone against the recommendation? So I'll take it as move forward and on this particular one, okay?
Great. Thank you, Chairman. All right, so we'll move on to our update on the task 3 work that's been completed to date. So for the purpose of this presentation, we're going to focus strictly on task 3A regarding floodplain management practices. 3B is going to be addressed at a later time. And we're going to have just a kind of a quick update on how we plan to move forward with task 3C and ask for some of your guidance and input on how you want to approach that. So the floodplain management practices are assessed by determining which communities have adopted floodplain management regulations, which ones are NFIP participants, which communities have adopted higher than minimum NFIP standards, and which use other types of tools to manage stormwater, including guidance documents, enforcement procedures, and some that maybe have adopted drainage or stormwater management fees. Our team first reviewed data collected during the first planning cycle to confirm that the information collected was still relevant and to determine where we had data gaps, basically those areas where we weren't successful in collecting information the first time. We've since been attempting to address those gaps by use of our survey tool, and we've had some targeted outreach through calls and emails, in-person meetings. Our subconsultant with the task force has helped a lot with that effort. So the table on the slide is summarizing Region 15 practices on a county level. While there are still data gaps that we're trying to fill, you can observe that nearly all of our Region 15 counties are NFIP participants and have also adopted floodplain management regulations that we were actually able to obtain and review. There's only one county in our region right now that has adopted higher standards at this time. And again, that is based on just the county. There are communities within various counties that have higher standards, but this is just looking at a county basis. If we dive into the data a little further, the table on the right summarizes the number of communities within each county that has adopted greater than minimum standards. So this was determined by reviewing those ordinances that we were able to collect for all the communities in Region 15 as they were available. We reviewed county and city subdivision standards and city code of ordinance documents. In total, there's 12 communities that have been identified within the region that have adopted greater than minimum standards. So moving on to 3C, the floodplain management goals. During the first planning cycle, the regional flood planning group developed 21 short-term and 21 long-term goals. Due to budget and time constraints, it was determined at that time that baseline conditions would not be assessed until this second planning cycle. So we have been in the process of determining those baseline status where we're able to get data. And we're in the process of preparing a handout that we would like to distribute to the regional flood planning group members within the next couple of weeks. And that will include all of the previously established goals and the baseline status for each goal where we're able to provide that information. What we are hoping to do is we're asking each member of the regional flood planning group to take some time prior to the next meeting to review that document. We're hoping to have the next meeting in August. For those of you that were involved the previous cycle, you might remember there was some pretty lengthy meetings when those goals were being developed. And so we're trying to, kind of streamline this and make it as efficient as possible by asking everybody to review these prior to the meeting. And then we can just dive in on whatever specific items anybody wants to discuss, rather than having to spend a lot of time, reviewing each individual one. So the other possibility that some of the other groups are doing is to form a technical committee that's has meetings separate from the regional flood planning group. I'm not sure if that was something that would be of interest here, but that's how some of the other regions are approaching this, so that certain items that maybe are involve a little more detailed dive into reviewing tasks or having discussions about how the direction that should be taken by the group, or things that are more technical in nature. We could, organize it that way instead, and then push when we come back with reviewing and approving goals at a later meeting. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that.
I've got a question on
Sure.
what you were mentioning previously about these like police stations and all that. What is the objective of creating that? I guess that asset list.
So yeah, it's part of the scope to identify critical facilities so that we can understand, where do we have facilities that are going to be impacted by flooding, and how that affects flood response and recovery. And it also is important because the scoring of FMXs, if you are benefiting a critical facility that's impacted by flood risk, those are scored higher. So it's advantageous for the region to have a complete and accurate list or mapping of all the critical facility infrastructure.
Okay, and then with this floodplain management, that's a separate task. What is the objective there?
Specifically the goals or the kind of floodplain management practices in general? Or both? Is that, are you asking just kind of like generally
Yeah,
for chapter
Yeah,
3?
generally, yes.
So, the purpose of chapter 3 overall, to review how effective the region is, in terms of managing their stormwater practices. One of the objectives of developing this plan is to find ways that we can improve how we're managing and dealing with stormwater. So this task is really to evaluate how we're doing right now and then developing goals that will show how we can improve in that capacity. Does that make sense?
So I guess for our region, what does that entail? Like, some sort of like, it's the flood management projects that are currently in place and
also documents that and policies and procedures that communities have in place to manage stormwater. So if you're an NFIP member, you have to have a like a flood ordinance, right? That says what your requirements are going to be for developing in the floodplain and how you manage those types of activities. And so and then there's subdivision guidelines and all sorts of other enforcement documents, specific projects that are being developed to mitigate flood risk. We're trying to collect and review that information that's available across the region to perform a baseline assessment of where the region stands and then set goals regarding where we want to go.
Thank you.
Sure. Are there any thoughts about how we want to approach reviewing goals? Is everybody kind of comfortable with what we're proposing to send out a flyer before the meeting and then just kind of diving in during the next meeting where folks have comments and questions, or is there interest in setting up work groups to have a smaller subset of this group dive in a little more deeply? Looking just for feedback of where the group would like to fall along those lines.
Any thoughts from any of the board members in regards to this, whether we do a technical committee and proceed with that? And if we don't have volunteers, I guess we can always assign folks. But if not, we can just go ahead and all of us review those goals and baselines this month and then look possibly to act on those in the August meeting for adopting the goals that have been reviewed. Is that right, Ann?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So what would you all like to do? I mean, I think it'd be, of course, I think all of us should read those handouts and the goals and baselines. I mean, but do we need to put a small group together to review it in detail and then make a recommendation to the board? Any thoughts from anyone on that?
Well, maybe after the flyers are distributed and we can take it upon ourselves to contact our meeting organizers so that we can say, hey, you know what, there might be a reason for a pre-meeting. That way we can expedite the next meeting. We're doing great today, by the way. It's almost just an hour. But when it gets to be more detail, yes, I do concur that we need to increase the speed, and whatever we can do ahead, that'd be good. But if I get the information beforehand, I will commit to giving you feedback and saying, yes, I think we need to talk about these things before. How about that? It's kind of an ad hoc, but might be the best way to go without setting it. I'm not sure.
Any other thoughts? Thank you, Mr. Estrada.
I concur with those comments. It would be nice for us to be able to review that and then figure out next steps.
Okay, so could everyone, once you receive that document, give yourself a few days or a week or so to review them? And if need be, just send me an email and I will be more than happy to put a working group together, and I'll just arbitrarily appoint 3 or 4 people to it, a technical committee, and have them review it before our next meeting so that we can go ahead and look for the approval of that, hopefully sometime in August. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so
Very good.
if I don't hear from you, because a lot of folks don't email, that means that you don't need a committee and you won't ask too many questions at the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay,
Very good. Thank you.
okay, so you got your orders. And
Yes, sir. We will, we're working on wrapping that up and we will have that out in the next week or two.
okay,
All right, so then the final update we have on chapter 4 is specifically focused on task 4A and the process for identifying potential FMXs for inclusion in the plan. So the process for identifying FMXs as provided by Texas Water Development Board includes 6 steps that are laid out on the slide. First, the technical committee performs an initial screening to ensure that the project meets minimum Texas Water Development Board rules and guidance requirements. And then next for FMPs, each project goes through additional screening per the Texas Water Development Board flowchart that we'll briefly review on the next slide. And then for FMEs and FMSs that are included in steps 3 and 4, those are reviewed to ensure compliance with minimum submittal requirements. Specifically, they have to have a clear definition of the impact area that would be benefited from the project and a detailed description along with a project sponsor. Let's see, finally, after confirming the minimum submittal requirements, each project's reviewed in more detailed to confirm that model areas results show no negative impact and that the impact areas are clearly defined. Final recommendations of FMXs as indicated in step 6 is at the discretion of the regional flood planning group and will be reviewed further along in the planning process when we're developing the draft plan. So the minimum rules indicate that each submitted FMX must meet these following requirements. 1, does the FMX address an established floodplain management goal? 2, does it meet an emergency need? So this is not necessarily a requirement for inclusion in the plan, but we do need to determine if it's applicable. Nick mentioned the meeting that Texas Water Development Board recently had at the end of June, and they provide some additional guidance here. So they defined an emergency need by projects and actions that address a flood hazard that is expected to cause the loss of function of critical facilities or to alleviate immediate threat to life and property from flooding, such as imminent anticipated failure of infrastructure. So they emphasize that this is not a requirement for inclusion, and there may be projects added that don't necessarily meet an emergency need. The third requirement is that it has to address a flood problem with a drainage area of 1 square mile or greater. There are exceptions here, though, specifically, and again, this is why that critical facilities data set is important. If there's impacts to those facilities, that can be an exception or for having a smaller area. If it affects transportation routes or any other reason, really, if that's determined to be important by the regional flood planning group. And then the fourth one is whether or not it reduces flood risk for a 100-year storm event. So this is the flow chart I mentioned. I don't think we necessarily need to go through each one of these things. It basically looks at each of the 4 requirements that I said, whether there's negative impacts, whether there's sufficient details, and then just kind of guides you through the process for whether or not a flood mitigation project strategy or a flood management evaluation can be considered. It's noted that for FMPs that maybe don't meet some of the guidelines, one option would be to still include those projects as FMEs so they can be analyzed further. So this is the process that was used during the first planning cycle. It was also what we used during the amendment process. I think the recommendation here is to continue using the same screening criteria for consideration of FMXs as we go into this next cycle. And this is the other item that we were seeking feedback and possibly approval on, to basically keep using the same process that we had been.
Any comments in regards to the step 2 screening of the projects and the methodology that we have been using? Is everybody okay with continuing to use this piece as is? If I don't hear any comments, that would mean, Ann, that you continue using it, okay?
Great.
I do have Danny Diaz, I believe, that would like to ask you a question. Danny, are you still on, and can you unmute yourself and express to us the concern that you've expressed? I don't hear him. I don't know if he's still on, Jaime. Jaime, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Is Danny Diaz still on the call?
I don't see him.
I don't either.
No, sir. I don't see
Okay.
him on here. No, sir.
Okay. And his concern or his question was that your brief only focused on the attention to the southern portion of the area of responsibility. I guess he's with either the city of Del Rio or Valverde County, but he says they completed regional watershed work. The engineering firm presented the master plan to the city council and was approved. How is this integrated for further analysis? I will get you his number so that you can personally just give him a call back if you don't mind, Ann. Okay?
Yeah, he's speaking to the amendment. Is that what his comment was on?
I am not totally, I presume, but I'm not totally sure.
I'll-
So
sorry.
we will get you the number and make sure that you can get in touch with him, okay?
Yes, sir. I will follow up with him. We did coordinate with that team and the city of Del Rio during the amendment process and reviewed all their models and projects. And those projects were included in the amendment, just for your general information, but I will follow up with him directly.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions or concerns with the presentation as of now? Okay, you don't need any more affirmative actions by the council on anything else.
Nope, that is correct. I was going to end with a quick schedule update,
Okay,
and then
yes,
there's
please.
one other slide before we get into the pre-planning meeting items, which I think many on this group have heard, but we do have another presentation that will take a little bit of time to get through. So.
Okay.
So if I can proceed, sir, I'll just kind of give the brief
Please
update on
do.
the schedule. Okay. So I already kind of gave the update on these first 4 chapters, and this is kind of where they're aligning along the timeline towards our submittal of a technical memo on January 7th of 2026. I will note that there's several things that we need to get done leading up to that memo. So we will be requesting some additional meetings, probably monthly for the next couple of months, to stay on track with getting that submittal done and to help keep the meetings, within a reasonable and efficient amount of time. If we skip too many, and then it's going to result in kind of a longer meeting later on, which I know is tough for everybody's schedules. So the work on tasks 2 and 3, we're hoping to wrap up by October. I previously mentioned, sorry, I skipped task 1. Task 1, we're wrapping up right now, and Black and Beach, our subconsultant, is going to come to the next meeting and give you their update on the work they've done on chapter 1. 2 and 3, we're looking to wrap up in October after a public meeting that we're tentatively planning sometime early September to review existing flood risk data and receive comment. That's a required component of this process. And then we intend to open up additional FMX submittals beginning next week. And we'll accept them for inclusion in the tech memo through September 19th of this year. So this puts us into November to have a draft technical memo for your review. And then we hope to get approval from the regional flood planning group by December in order to meet that January 7th submittal deadline. One thing I want to note is that there will be some future opportunity next year to continue to add FMXs if there's communities that are currently working on studies and don't have FMPs developed yet. I think the thing that's really important right now is that if there's an FME that is needed in an area that does not have flood risk data, it's really critical to get that information to us by September 19th. And part of that reason is 2 of the tasks within the scope of work involve performance of FMEs by our team so that those can be advanced to FMP status. And we are also required to provide a list of FMEs to be performed by Texas Water Development Board. During that meeting we had at the end of June with Texas Water Development Board, they indicated that the intent is to really focus on those small and possibly rural communities that lack resources to perform them internally themselves. So this is really what we're trying to get, or one of the big things we're trying to get from this FMX cycle being open is to identify those areas where that have a need to perform FMEs.
And those can be submitted beginning this coming Monday, right?
Correct, yep.
Through the 19th.
Yep, and we will distribute information to the website, through emails. We're going to be working with our sub-consultants to reach out to folks individually. And then we also have our social media sites that we're launching, and we'll be posting things there as well.
Okay.
Okay, so you mentioned FMX, but now it's FME. Is it open to everything or just to FMEs at this time?
It's open to everything. There's just a special, like, it's critically important to get FMEs that folks want us to take a look at for consideration to be performed during the cycle. Because there will be some opportunity later to accept others, but we are accepting all FMXs beginning next week.
Okay.
Through the 19th of
To the
September.
19th of September. Yep.
But of course, the sooner the better.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other comments? Okay. Anything else, Ann?
Not on this item, sir.
Okay. Any questions or discussion on this item? If not, we'll go to item number 10. It's the Regional Flood Planning Group Cycle 2 Pre-Planning Meeting. Number 2, the second meeting.
Yes, let me grab that other screen. Bear with me for a couple seconds.
And Mr. Hernandez, we will get to you shortly.
Thank you, sir.
Cool.
While we're waiting for this, I'd like to just mention for any of you that would like to designate an alternate for any of the meetings, because we will be having meetings regularly for the next 3 or 4 months. Please send Jaime something to designate an alternate. That way we'll make sure and be able to get quorums for the meetings. Okay, if you plan to be out or you need to be out.
Thank you, Chairman. An email will work just fine. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, could everybody see the next presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Great, thank you. All right, so this presentation is to cover the second pre-planning meeting that we're required to have for the Lower Rio Grande Flood Planning Group. So it's intended to provide a background on the formation of regional flood planning groups and the overall planning process. Further, we'd like to provide an opportunity to make any recommendations you might have as to issues, provisions, projects, and strategies that should be considered in the development of a regional flood plan. Sorry, this is not advancing. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So these are the topics that we're going to be covering during the presentation, starting with an overview of the planning process and a description of the Region 15 planning area. We'll then identify the regional flood planning group members and planning team and define the roles and responsibilities of each party. We'll then review the scope of work as provided by Texas Water Development Board and talk a little bit about how it's similar and how it is different from the first planning cycle. From there, Christina Leal, who you all know and remember and was very involved with the first planning cycle, will provide a recap on some of the highlights. And then Elmer is going to come back and summarize the work done during the 2025 amendment process. He'll continue by providing additional information on our data collection tool efforts and how you can assess the survey and mapping tool that we'll have open through the end of next week. We'll discuss the upcoming FMX submittal window for 2028 cycles. And then at the end, we'll have time for public comments to receive any feedback you wish to share with us. And ultimately, that's really why we're here right now, is to get your thoughts and concerns and suggestions on the planning process and help us improve it and provide feedback to Texas Water Development Board on the planning process as we move forward. So we'll start by discussing how the regional flood planning process was created. The process was initiated in 2019 with the passing of Senate Bill 8 by the 86th Texas Legislature. SB 8 required the state to develop a statewide flood plan based on individual regional flood plans. This is similar to the process that's been used for regional water planning since 1997, but relative to flood planning, it's the first of its kind. Like the regional water planning, it's managed by the Texas Water Development Board and involves a bottom-up approach to planning where regional flood groups are created from community stakeholders with unique knowledge of the local flood conditions of their respective planning area. Members are volunteers, and they're intended to represent different interest groups throughout the region. The process is designed to be transparent and include many opportunities for public input, including the opportunities that we have during each one of these regional flood planning group meetings. You can get information about the various regional flood planning groups across the state. We have a link to the Texas Water Development Board website on the bottom right of the slide. And then you can find information about our specific Region 15 area using that other link. So this is the overall schedule. A lot of this stuff, I talked about the tech memo and that deadline already. This was also presented in some previous meetings. The Texas Water Development Board recently updated the schedule for the delivery of these 4 elements. And so those are the dates that are in yellow and reflect the new revised deadlines. So beyond the tech memo in January of next year, that list of FMEs to be performed by Texas Water Development Board that I mentioned, that is due on March 26th of next year. And then the draft regional flood plan is due on May 26th of 2027, with the final plan deadline being in January 10th of 2028. So now that we know a little about how and why regional flood planning groups were formed and the schedule for delivering a plan during the second cycle, we're going to talk a little bit about the composition of our lower Rio Grande or Region 15 planning area. It's made up of these 14 counties that are listed on the slide.
And I think you can, briefly go through this slides because we're all familiar with all of this already.
Yes, I understand, sir. I'm going to go really high level and blow through this pretty quickly. So Yes, you have these 14 counties. The ones in asterisk indicate that only parts of the counties fall within the planning area, and that's because we're following watershed boundaries and not political boundaries. This has some of the statistics of the planning area. Over 2 million people and 43,000 square miles. I think all of us that live in the region are aware of the flood risk we have. But just to kind of put a number to it, the FEMA flood claims between 1984 and January 2021 totaled over $197 million. And I think we all know too that that is probably really a much higher value when you consider damages that aren't actually reported to FEMA. So next, we're going to get into the planning group members and the planning team. And again, I'm going to just go through this very quickly and mostly for maybe some of the folks that haven't been involved in some of the previous meetings. We have 14 positions for voting members. They're all listed on the slide along with their interest category. We had 4 vacancies that were just recently filled earlier in this meeting. And so we already kind of talked about what some of those categories were and where we had the vacancies. So I think we can probably just move on. In addition to our voting members, we have 10 additional non-voting members on the team, including Nick Collins, who's our Region 15 planning representative and a great resource. We heard from him earlier. And so he's a great person to go to with questions about the process. As previously stated, Texas Water Development Board is the sponsor for all planning regions. And then in addition, each planning group has a local sponsor that handles all of the administrative tasks associated with regional flood planning. So in Region 15, our local sponsor is the Hidalgo County Drainage District number 1, with Jaime Salazar serving as the prime contact for that agency. The technical consultant team, I think you know us, Christina, who's on the call, and she'll be giving you an update here in a little bit on the first planning cycle as the project manager. I'm serving as deputy project manager. And then we have a great team of sub-consultants that are helping us out, including Black and Veatch, who is helping us with task 1 on the planning area. And then on task 6, in terms of how the flood plan relates to water supply in the area. We have the Rio Grande Stormwater Task Force, who's helping with public outreach. And then some of the administrative like funding opportunities that will be linked to the FMXs that are developed. And then Pathfinder is also helping us with public outreach. Right now, they're working on the social media sites that I had mentioned, and they'll be helping us with planning and scheduling some of those public meetings that we're going to have, including the one coming up in September. The next task, or the next few slides that I'm going to present on are the roles and responsibilities of all the parties that were introduced relative to the planning process. So starting with the regional flood planning group as a whole, the ultimate goal is to adopt and submit a regional flood plan to the Texas Water Development Board by January 10th, 2028. Members of the regional flood planning group are responsible for preparing for and participating in regular RFPG meetings and workshops, providing guidance and their own local expertise. They're responsible for being an ambassador for the Region 15 to solicit public and stakeholder input. They're charged with revising the goals established during the first cycle of regional flood planning to make sure that they still make sense and are on track. And finally, they're responsible for reviewing and providing feedback on planned deliverables that are provided by the technical consultant. As the local project sponsor, Hidalgo County Drainage District 1 is the administrative agent and are responsible for procuring the technical consultant and managing the efforts and deliverables of the consultant team, in addition to providing overall support throughout the planning process, including scheduling and sending out notices for meetings and posting review materials to the Region 15 website. As the selected technical consultant, HAF's responsible for performing data collection, for facilitating outreach and public engagement meetings. We're responsible for facilitating discussions with the regional flood planning group on all the plan deliverables, as well as evaluating, analyzing, mapping, identifying, and making recommendations on available information with respect to flood risk management practices and potential FMXs. We're also going to be responsible for putting together that list of FMEs to be performed by Texas Water Development Board that I previously mentioned, with the direction of the Regional Flood Planning Group. Finally, we're going to talk a little bit about the role of our Region 15 community stakeholders, which arguably has the most critical role in developing an effective regional plan. Without participation from our stakeholders, we have no plan. And so participation, attendance at the meetings is not only appreciated, but it's also essential for us to be able to develop an effective and comprehensive plan. We'll be asking this group to assist in providing historical asset and policy data relative to their drainage assets, available flood risk data, and current stormwater management practices within their jurisdictions. We'll also be relying on this group to inform the Regional Flood Planning Group of any issues or concerns about the planning process or project deliverables, and to provide recommendations for the Regional Flood Planning Group for their consideration. We are going to request that this group provides comments on draft plan and plan amendments. I know we got some of those earlier in the meeting, and we need to work on those responses. And I think that's the majority of it. I think we can move on. So we're going to dig in a bit to the scope of work. A lot of these tasks are similar to that of the first planning cycle, with some key modifications that are highlighted in green. So task 1 that we talked about is a description of the planning area. Task 2A looks at existing conditions, flood risk across the region. And I mentioned this is what we'll be covering in that public meeting that we want to hold in September. Task 2B is looking at potential future flood risk areas, and how changing land use and climatological conditions may impact the flood risk in the region. Thank you for the approval to move forward with that task earlier in our meeting. Task 3A is an evaluation of our floodplain management practices. I gave you that update, so I think you have an idea of what that's about, along with task 3C, which is an update of the goals. I mentioned the flood mitigation needs analysis, which is task 3B. This was also done last time under a different task. But that's something that as we're collecting all the information and defining flood hazard areas, we'll be reviewing all that to determine where the greatest needs are, where there's not other data available. So moving on to task 4A, we have the identification of potential FMXs. This was previously done under task 4B, but is otherwise the same as the first cycle. We're going to be accepting those new FMXs beginning next week. And then 4B is the preparation of the technical memorandum that was previously task 4C and is due in January next year. And then task 4C is to perform identified FMEs within the planning cycle. So there's kind of two things here. There's the list that we're going to give to Texas Water Development Board that they're going to perform. And then there's other FMEs that our technical group will perform as part of our deliverable. This was previously done under task 12, but has just kind of been relocated to task 4C during this planning cycle. Task 5A will be for the Regional Flood Planning Group to recommend FMXs into the 2028 plan. And then task 5B, this is a new task this year and was not performed previously. That's the list to Texas Water Development Board. Task 6A is to evaluate the overall impact of the recommended plan on the planning area. And then task 6B focuses specifically on the impact of the plan to the water supply in the region and the state water plan. And that's where Black and Veatch is going to be helping us out because they are the prime consultant doing the Region M water plan in addition to some others across the state. Task 7 will be to evaluate and summarize existing flood preparedness, response, and recovery activities in the region. 8 is to develop recommendations relative to legislative, regulatory, administrative, or other types of policies, guidelines, or actions that would be beneficial to supporting regional flood planning efforts. Task 9 will investigate potential ways that regional flood planning groups can finance FMXs that are recommended in their region. This is another task that the Stormwater Task Force is going to be helping us out with in reaching out to communities to see what their needs are. Task 10, and this is one of the most critical components of this process, covers public outreach. This is being executed throughout the entire course of the project. And something that we put a lot of time and effort into and are utilizing a lot of sub-consultants to help us make individual points of contact. And then finally, the last task, which is 11, is also a new task. And this is just to describe changes that were made to the regional flood plan this cycle relative to what was in the first cycle plan. All right, I know that was a lot, sorry. I'm going to hand this over now to Christina, and she's going to give just kind of an update on some of the main highlights of the regional flood planning effort from the first cycle.
I'll be quick. And so Region 15, we submitted our final regional flood plan at the beginning of 2023. And then we did an amendment, and that was submitted on July 14 of 2023. These regional flood plans are kind of knit together to build the state flood plan, which was adopted by the Water Development Board in August 15 of 2024. So you can see that there is a time lapse there. And I just wanted to point out that there's a lot of postings and effort that go into the Water Development Board merging these two. And those dates were set by legislation. And I just bring that up because the FIF funding, which we all are interested in this process because it makes you eligible for FIF funding. The requirement is not for you to be on the regional flood plan so much as for you to be on the state flood plan to be eligible. And so you need to be in the regional flood plan so that you can get included in the state flood plan, but bear in mind that there is time between these two different adoptions. And so they approved it according to the legislation that was Senate Bill 8, which was approved in 2020 or 2019. So just, I bring that up. So if you want to see what's on the current approved state flood plan, you can go to this website. It's texasstatefloodplan.org. It'll take you directly to an interactive map where you can actually just zoom in, or you can read the plan, the text that's associated with it. But for what we did is we included in the first cycle 586 studies, projects, and strategies for a total of $1.35 billion. And as Mr. Gasser brought up, there was a lot of devastation early in this year, and we did submit an amendment in April, Anne, if I'm right.
Yep,
and so
April 1st.
The Water Development Board set those deadlines so that they can get the state flood plan amended in time for the next release of FIF funding, which is early or in 2016, sometime around there. There were talks of a second amendment that was thrown out, but I think, if I remember correctly, in our last technical consultants call, they were getting rid of that second amendment. So I'm just putting that out there. I think they really are doing away with the second amendment, but I know that there's a lot of need. But you can see on our website The second amendment that was submitted, if you go to www.region15lrg.org, and you can see what's included in the second amendment that will be included in the next, in the amended state flood plan. So that's all I have.
Great. Thanks, Christina. So moving into the amendment that was done in 2025, Elmer is going to come and kind of give a brief overview of that process and what we included.
All right, I'll try to keep it short. So in December of 2024, the group decided to proceed with a new amendment. We sent out flyers, checklists to stakeholders over the region. We submitted the amended plan on April 1st of this year. And right now it's currently under review, and we're anticipating that by early next year, the amended FMXs can be included on the plan. Go to the next one. So numbers, how the FMXs changed, the amended FMXs changed on numbers here. So we added 89 FMEs, 11 FMPs, 35 FMSs. So total, we added 135 FMXs for the amendment. So it brought the cost from $1.35 billion to $1.7 billion. We're also working on data collection, and already mentioned this. That's for the general public, organizations, nonprofits, so they can identify flood-prone areas. Here's the website, so we can understand the flood risk over the region better. Go to the next one. And again, data collection survey was shared in February of this year, and it's going to be closing on July 25th. So it's going to be next week. So there's still time to input your information. And then FMXs, we're going to accept new FMXs for the next cycle, so 2028. And I'm going to talk about some of the requirements. So for FMSs and FMEs, it's very short. We just need a description for the study or the solution and the service area. We need a estimated cost to perform the FMEs or FMSs, and a local sponsor. For FMPs, though, they do include those requirements, but also you need to provide a benefit cost analysis and supporting documentation, the project benefits like number of structures removed from the floodplain, lengths of roads removed, and also we need a no negative impacts analysis following the TWDB guidelines. Also, we would need a supporting model and a engineering report affirming that there is no negative impacts. We want to make sure that whatever we're proposing is not affecting any other areas. I think that's it.
Yep, so that gets us through all the materials that we wanted to share for the pre-planning meeting. We can take any comments, suggestions, concerns at this time. I see, Mr. Hernandez, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Ann. I wanted to get clarification. You guys mentioned that there's going to be an opening from starting next week to the 19th, I believe September 19th. That's going to be for the 2028 or the possible amendment. I couldn't clarify that.
That is for the 2028 regional flood plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments in regards to what we've listened to and heard from both Ann, Christine, and Elmer? If not, thank you so much, team, for presenting today. Good information, keeps us on track. Anything else, Christina, on item 11? I'm sorry, on item 10.
No, Chairman.
Okay, thank you so much. Then I'll go on to item 11, which is general public comment. Mr. Hernandez, I believe you wanted to give us a public comment. This is the opportune time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Garza. Robert Hernandez with the City of Harlingen Engineering Department. I just wanted to, I know that earlier there was a gentleman that spoke about adding a project. I wanted to see if the City of Harlingen could also be granted that opportunity. The main reason we weren't able to add projects on the earlier amendment back in April was because we didn't have a submitted draft report for our HUC 10 master drainage plan. We received one. Regional projects have been identified along with hydraulic data that we received. So I want to see if that would be a possible option. Also, I know there was a discussion about a possible amendment that could happen in the near future, but still hasn't been determined. If there's any way you guys could advocate for that, that would assist us more, that we don't put that much constraint if those projects are being able to be added. I do appreciate you guys and the work you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. We'll take that into consideration and reach out to see what can be done. And in the meantime, if you have something that needs to be considered, please do not hesitate to submit it to Ann or Christine or Elmer or all three.
Yes, sir. I just sent them the preliminary draft. I'll be getting the rest of the data so I could transfer it over.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Any other public comment that is live online that needs to be made by anyone?
None received on my end, Chairman.
Okay, thank you so much, Jaime. We will be having meetings regularly, as we've mentioned, okay? What I'm looking at doing is designating the third Wednesday of each month between now and hopefully November. Preliminarily, not set in stone, Jaime, okay? But that gives you a little bit of a planning opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Okay? It seems to have worked out on those. In the past, we've done quite a few third Wednesdays of the month, and it seems to have worked. So, kind of look at those dates. Any feedback, send to Jaime and me and share it with us, and we'll work around the schedules. But preliminarily, we'll look at that. And also, please, if you have an alternate you want to designate, make sure you send an email to Jaime so that he can go ahead and have that on file and allow us to have the meetings if the individual members cannot be on there. Okay?
Chairman, I believe we do have one more comment from Mr. Manny Cruz.
Okay.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Commissioner, Mr. Chair, just wanted to, I guess, come on here and I guess do a special request. In light of the current situation with Central Texas that's continuing to go on, would it be possible to provide an update to the LRGVC Board of Directors? As you know, it encompasses the entire region, this three-county region. And so they've been more so now asking questions as far as different projects or different ventures that are going on in the region. I think this committee has done a tremendous and a lot of work dealing with the flooding situation or the plan. And so I think it would be the perfect timing for one of the committee members or even the consultants to provide a brief overview of what has been accomplished.
Consultants take too long to present, okay?
Yeah.
It'd be too long, but we'd be more than happy to you just let us know, Manny, and we'd be more than happy to accommodate. And one of us will be there for that at your convenience, okay?
Okay, the next meeting is going to be August 27th at noon.
Oh, are you inviting?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration and we'll make sure and possibly have either myself or Commissioner Fuentes, since he's my vice chair of this committee, to be there, or maybe both of us can be there and do a short presentation. I'll work on a PowerPoint that would be succinct, to the point, and hopefully August 27th, that'd be towards the end of the legislative session, and there might be some more information that can be shared that is given to us.
I
Great,
know,
thank you.
Chairman, that Commissioner Fuentes is part of the Texas Association of Counties, and they have their legislative conference starting on that day on August 27th through the 29th, just an FYI. Mr. Cruz, if you can send me your request and all the details via email, and I'll get that, try to get that set up with you with Chairman or some of the committee members.
Yeah,
I will.
I will
Thank
not
you.
be attending the legislative update,
Okay, sir.
so I should be available,
Sounds good, sir.
okay? Anything else that anyone needs to comment or decipher with the group? And again, I already got the 12th. We'll tentatively set the third Wednesday. Is that your meeting is at 12 noon, right, Manny?
Yes, at noon on the
Okay.
27th.
Okay, so we'll tentatively set the date for us, Jaime, and we'll send it out to everyone and see how that works, okay? The only other thing left is a
Yes, sir.
motion to adjourn. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lucio. Seconded,
second that.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, same sign. Thank you, everyone, for your patience, and I think we had a great meeting today. Take
Thank
care. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.